It's Monday, October 17th, and this is now on HNN. Officials plan to give an update on the water main breaks that are impacting residents, businesses, and facilities on the Navy's water system.
This is a game changer for millions of Americans.
President Biden announces that millions of Americans can now apply for student loan forgiveness.
Russia hits Ukraine with another wave of deadly airstrikes, this time using drones. I'm Skyler Henry in Washington with a look at what Ukraine's president says he needs to fend off Russian aggression.
These stories, plus over-the-counter hearing aids, are about to go on sale. Everything you need to know coming up on This Is Now.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us. I'm Dylan Ancheta alongside Ashley Nagaoka. The website to apply for student loan forgiveness is now live.
That's right. President Biden announced the formal launch today, the latest phase of his plan that is expected to provide debt relief to as many as 43 million Americans.
This is a game changer for millions of Americans. We get moving. It landed and handled more than 8 million applications without a glitch or any difficulty. We had over 10,000 people contact the White House to be either to send us letters or calls thanking us. It means more than 8 million Americans are starting this week on their way to receiving a life-changing relief that they're looking for. It started today with millions more, and we're going to have the opportunity to do it as well. As millions of people fill out the application, we're going to make sure the system continues to work as smoothly as possible so that we can deliver student loan relief for millions of Americans as quickly and as efficiently as possible. But I want to be clear who's going to benefit the most. Working people, the middle class. If you earn less than $125,000 a year, you'll get up to $10,000 knocked off your student debt. If you earn less than $125,000 a year and you receive the Pell Grant, you'll get up to an additional $10,000 knocked off that debt, so $20,000 in relief. In total, more than 40 million Americans can stand to benefit from this relief. And about 90% of that relief is going to go to people making less than $75,000 a year. Let me be clear. Not a dime will go to those in the top 5% of the income bracket, period.
The Navy says it could take more than a week to fix 3 mains that ruptured on Friday. One of those breaks is a massive 36-inch main that essentially serves the entire Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam. That has prompted a boil water advisory for some 93,000 people on the Navy's waterline.
I can estimate the time of repair right now, and we'll refine this as the day goes. But I would estimate between 7 and 10 days right now is what we're looking at. Hopefully it's shorter, but I would plan on 7 to 10 days.
Officials say the boil water advisory was ordered as a precaution because bacteria can enter the waterline where there's a break.
It's really about ingestion. So showering and wash your hands with soap is not a concern. It's about anything that requires consumption. So if you're going to use the water to drink, if you're going to cook with it, if you're going to brush your teeth, that's where the recommendation is to boil the water for a minute, rolling boil, to ensure that there's no bacteria in the water.
There's also a long list of closures you need to know about. 11 of the Navy's 12 child development centers, which serves about 5,000 children altogether, will be closed today. The only one open is in Wahiawa because that's on a separate water line. The Navy initially said all schools in the area will be open, but we have now confirmed Iroquois Point Elementary is closed today because the water pressure isn't strong enough to flush toilets. The Navy also says gyms and pools will remain closed. 2 water distribution sites are open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. One's at the main Navy Exchange parking lot, and the other is in the Hickam Main Exchange parking lot. Officials also say the Navy Exchange is back up and running after closing early on Saturday. The Navy is asking people to conserve water. Meanwhile, these water main repairs are also affecting efforts to defuel Red Hill. Again, the Navy will be holding a 12:30 press conference. Stay with Hawaii News Now for all the latest developments.
On the Big Island, court documents say the gun that killed an 11-year-old boy at a Boy Scout camp was an AK-47 semi-automatic assault rifle. Officials say Manuel Carvalho died of a single gunshot wound at Camp Honokaia on August 28th. Hawaii Island police ruled the shooting death as accidental. The court documents were filed by the boy's family, who is frustrated that the charges pending against 3 men are only misdemeanors. That's according to the Hawaii Tribune-Herald. The family is also seeking information from the police department, including the autopsy, police body camera video, dispatch transmissions, and more. But the police department is arguing against releasing the information, citing privacy concerns and hampering the investigation. A hearing on the record's request is set for Wednesday.
Honolulu police are investigating a string of robberies that happened over the weekend. The most recent one happened around 4:30 yesterday morning near the intersection of McCully and South Baratania. We're told a man allegedly hit the victim in the head with a hammer, then took his wallet. The second incident also happened yesterday morning around 3 a.m. by Alawai Community Park. Police say a 25-year-old man was robbed by 3 other men. One of them allegedly held a knife to the victim's ribs. Then on Saturday night around 8 p.m., HPD says a man pointed a gun at someone who was trying to stop him from robbing a store in the Kapolei area. Police are still looking for suspects in all 3 cases. We also have new numbers this morning on the rising rate of crime on Oahu. From January 1st through September 25th, there have been 626 incidents of robbery. That's up about 14% from last year. That's according to the Star Advertiser, which analyzed HPD statistics. There were also 577 arrests for weapons violations, which is a 26% jump from last year.
Starting today, ballots for the general election will be mailed to Honolulu County voters. The state says all voters should have their ballots by this Friday. Voters can return their ballot by mail using the postage-paid envelope or by dropping off their ballot at a drop box. On Oahu, there are 15 locations across the island. Ballot drop boxes open tomorrow and close at 7 p.m. on Election Day. Now, across the state, voters should expect their ballots to arrive starting by the end of the week. Election Day is Tuesday, November 8th, and if you prefer to vote in person, voter service centers are set to open October 25th, and of course, they'll be open on Election Day as well. With the general election just weeks away, HNN's political analyst Colin Moore joined us on Sunrise today to talk about the governor's race.
I mean, maybe we start with a broad question. What are the major issues that you see from your perspective going into this?
Sure. You know, the interesting thing about this race is it's really being driven by national issues. Sure, there are some differences on local policy, but Josh Green is trying to paint Duke Aiona as a conservative Republican. He's talking about abortion. He's talking about gun control. Now, Duke Aiona is trying to be a little bit careful here. He's not denying that he favors gun rights. He's not denying that he's personally pro-life, but he is saying this isn't going to matter, so I want to focus on the issues. And he's emphasizing, his traditional Republican beliefs in lower taxes, less regulation, those sorts of things.
Do you think that these types of issues will actually drive people to vote? Because I feel like things like more like affordable housing, things that affect us every day will have a bigger impact.
Well, to some extent, I mean, it depends on the voters. There are a lot of voters who are very motivated by abortion and are worried that if a Republican gets into office, our abortion laws here will become less secure. But I do think it's really affordable housing and those issues. And the things that I'm confused by in this race is that Duke Aiona hasn't really run a different campaign than he's run in the past. I mean, I think I've said before that I think one of the strongest positions for Republicans is anti-corruption. And I haven't heard Duke Aiona really hitting those talking points as much as I think he probably should.
But I just want to go back to something that you said a little while ago about abortion in particular and gun rights. And Aiona's argument has been, well, it's not really going to be up to him,
right,
because the law is what the law is. I mean, how fair do you think that is, especially given what Governor Ige did as far as taking executive action to protect abortion rights here in Hawaii?
Well, Governor Ige's executive action, which means that doctors and people who perhaps fly to Hawaii will be protected from criminal prosecution back in their home state. I think that Josh Green, though, has a point, which is that although the legislature ultimately has to make those decisions, there's a lot of issues that come up in front of bureaucratic agencies, like the new director of the Department of Health would be responsible. And perhaps most importantly, the new governor is going to appoint 3 new Supreme Court justices. So although abortion rights in Hawaii might not be overturned, they could be less secure.
Is this an overreach at all? Because it almost sounds like he's trying to control things that are not within the jurisdiction of Hawaii.
Governor Ige.
Yes.
Well, I mean, partly this is symbolic. I mean, other states have done this, and there's very few, I think, people who are going to fly all the way to Hawaii to have this procedure. But I do think we're also in uncharted waters here because, now women don't have this federal level protection, and it's not clear what could happen back in their home state. So I think this really is just to send a message and to show solidarity with the other states that protect women's rights to choose.
Police in Stockton, California say they've arrested a man suspected of killing at least 5 men since July. As Nichelle Medina reports, officials believe they interrupted him as he was about to kill again.
Stockton police say the man in this surveillance video is 43-year-old Wesley Brownlee, now behind bars. He was arrested over the weekend wearing black with a mask around his neck, carrying a gun.
Our surveillance team followed this person while he was driving. We watched his patterns and determined he was on a mission to kill.
Police say Brownlee ambushed and killed 5 men in Stockton between early July and late September. All but one were Hispanic and some were homeless. The first victim was 35-year-old Paul Yaw. His mother spoke to CBS News about her son's death earlier this month.
I don't know if we'll ever have closure because I'll never get to see my son again.
Police say they were able to track down Brownlee in large part thanks to hundreds of tips from residents. Renee Myers started this Facebook group to help police.
Our administrative team on this group has worked so hard with the community to try to uncover every stone and try to identify who this person was who's been terrorizing our community.
Stockton locals are also grateful for the work of law enforcement.
This capture just shows the diligence of our police force and the commitment that they have to the communities.
The suspect is currently being held in county jail without bail and is expected to be arraigned Tuesday on murder charges. Nichelle Medina, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Russia is once again targeting Ukraine's capital city of Kyiv. The latest deadly attacks on civilians include increased use of drones, which the U.S. says are coming from Iran. Skylar Henry has the latest details.
As police took aim at drones in the skies over Kyiv, civilians scrambled for cover. Ukraine says the Russians have stepped up attacks with suicide drones which explode on impact. A drone destroyed an apartment building in the capital, where local officials say at least 3 people died. The strikes are once again targeting civilians. Payback, many believe, for Ukraine blowing up a key bridge in territory occupied by Russia.
The most recent escalation, the United States strongly condemns Russia's missile strikes today, which continue to demonstrate Putin's brutality.
Today's attacks come after Russia claimed over the weekend that Ukraine shelled the city of Belgorod, just over the border, wounding civilians. The Biden administration recently promised an additional $725 million in aid to Ukraine, but the military hardware won't include air defense systems. And that's what Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says his nation needs the most. He believes Russian airstrikes will end when Ukraine receives a sufficient quantity of modern and effective air defense systems. And while Russia keeps the pressure on from the air, Moscow is working to mobilize 300,000 reservists, calling up to reinforce ground troops in Ukraine. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Washington.
The U.S. Supreme Court rejected an appeal seeking to give people born in American Samoa the same rights as Americans. The nation's high court refused to hear the case in which 3 American Samoa natives who now live in Utah asked for citizenship. American Samoa is the only unincorporated U.S. territory where residents do not become American citizens at birth. That means they cannot vote in U.S. elections or hold certain jobs. The American Samoans in this case could not become police officers. The issue is settled for now by a federal appeals court, which said Congress should decide citizenship issues, not courts. They also note that American Samoa's elected leaders opposed the lawsuit, saying it could harm their cultural traditions.
Sales for over-the-counter hearing aids are about to begin soon. Ivan Rodriguez joins us from our nation's capital with what you need to know.
Traditional prescription hearing aids can cost on average about $2,000. Starting today, the White House says Americans will not only be able to save money, but also have access to better care.
We have big news today, and that is going to benefit as many as 30 million Americans.
For the first time,
Hearing aids can now be purchased over the counter without a prescription, exam, or fitting, following an August rule change by the FDA.
The people most helped are adults with mild to moderate hearing loss who might not take that first step.
The White House says hearing aids will soon be available at major retailers, including Walgreens, CVS, Walmart, and Best Buy, and claim this could save people as much as $3,000 per year.
That's thousands of dollars going back into the pockets of Americans.
Experts say leaving hearing loss untreated could be detrimental to overall health. Studies have shown some links to dementia, poor mental health, and increased risks of falls.
Hearing health is part of overall wellness, just as is your blood pressure, cholesterol, your weight, everything else, to staying fit.
Many hope that increased availability of hearing aids will also help remove the stigma attached to wearing devices, while the increased competition could lead to cheaper, better technology in the future.
The future is bright in how we can use them and how they might be impacting our ability to track our health.
Experts recommend people still go and get a hearing test before heading out to the store. There are several free or even low-cost options at hearing centers at stores like Costco or even online tests. Ashley?
Now, Ivan, what are some of the key things consumers should look for when purchasing these over-the-counter hearing aids?
Well, actually, there's a couple of things. For one is the return policy. The FDA made it an option for return policies not to be offered. If there is a return policy that's offered, it's going to say on the packaging. Now, another thing that people need to look out for that the White House is saying is to make sure that the FDA approval is actually on that packaging as well. You want to make sure that it is FDA approved and that is also showing on the packaging.
And you mentioned the cost of traditional hearing aids. What are the costs associated with these over-the-counter ones?
Well, it really depends on where you go and look for these hearing aids and purchase them over the counter. We are talking about stores like Walgreens, Walmart, and Best Buy. To give you a couple of numbers from what we're hearing from different stores, for example, Walgreens is saying their stores are looking at per pair $799, and they're comparing that cost to between $2,000 to $8,000. And other stores are similar as well. We do know that an entry-level pair for many stores can cost right around the $300 mark. So it's really going to be able to come down to the consumer now to find the pair that works for them. Again, a key factor here is they're still asking even the retailer stores to go out and get a hearing test before coming into the store, and that can even help the consumer be able to find the perfect pair, or maybe it's not getting a hearing aid at all.
All right, Ivan Rodriguez joining us from Washington, D.C. this afternoon. Thanks for the time.
Well, the highlight event for Honolulu Pride Month has come to an end. That, of course, being the Pride Parade that happened this past Saturday. Take a look at some of the festivities. This year was absolutely incredible. Thousands of people lined the streets to watch the parade. It was also a record-setting year with more than 150 businesses and organizations taking part in the parade. Of course, your H&N team was there out in force. We had a float and some marchers, and we handed out some lollipops. Overall, it was such a great time. There were so many extravagant and colorful floats, and Hawaii News Now is honored to have been a part of it. All of this culminated with a festival over at the Waikiki Shell, where festival goers were treated to performances and booths, and all around good times. Yeah, so much fun out there at the Pride Parade. That's our H&N family right there. Ashley, you were a part of it. Did you have fun?
It was great. It was beautiful. It was such good vibes from everyone. And Dylan, I got to say how proud I am of you, because the parade was just visually stunning. There were, beautiful floats, like the colors of the rainbow, the drag queens. And Dylan made the front page of the paper today of all the things in the parade. Like, there's Miss Malibu.
I think I know some of those queens out there.
Yes, so proud.
Thank you to our friends at Star Advertiser for doing that today. Super fun event. Thank you to everyone for showing so much love.
Yeah, lots of love there. All right, Let's switch gears to weather now. We're going to take you live today. This is Atlanta. The temperature right now, 71 degrees. Let's check our weather. Guy has the day off, so let's check in with Billy V.
We got the swell forecast here, and what you're seeing is some of the bump that we're getting a swell up here from the north. So that's happening today. That's about 10 to 14 feet. And so we're going to put this into motion. So this is today, and then as we move in towards Wednesday, you'll see that we've got one more bit of the swell that's going to be coming in as I get that moving, and there we go. So here comes the Wednesday, significant swell there. That's going to be bigger than the one that we have today. So that'll be advisory level. We're expecting high surf advisories for that one. And as we go through, you'll see that energy kind of sticks around into Thursday. Friday, it starts to go away. Let's also show you about the rain, kind of the same thing. Now, we've got a frontal system that's going to come down here from the north. That's going to be stalling out, not there, but we'll put it in motion. There we go. It's going to stall out right here along Maui County, exactly where not all the models agree. But we're estimating that this is about where it will stall out, and it may bring heavy spotty showers. You see the winds that are coming down behind that, and then it kind of meanders here, and then it pushes back off to the east, catching Kauai and Oahu with some more showers on as it's on its way out. So that's what's coming ahead, your first forecast, your first alert forecast for you on this Monday. Wet weather on the way starting Wednesday.
Thank you, Billy. Let's see what the internet's talking about. BTS fans, listen up. The K-pop sensations will be hanging up their microphones for military gear. Now, members of the band will soon enlist to serve, which is mandatory for most able-bodied men in South Korea between the ages of 18 and 28. Exemptions do exist, and some lawmakers called for the band to be allowed to forego service. So service times range from 18 to 21 months. The band's management says the group will reconvene sometime around 2025.
2025.
I know.
They got some good music. I know a lot of fans who are quite sad about
Yeah,
that,
I bet.
including our former producer, Jen Wong. That story was for you. We also, now let's take a look at our nation's capital. On Sunday, the White House could more aptly be called the Pink House. It was lit up with a magenta hue to honor Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Every year in October, breast cancer patients, survivors, and research takes center stage. Reducing cancer-related deaths is a key issue for the Biden administration, and it's part of their initiatives to, ramp up this healthcare and bring attention to it and allocate more resources to that. So that's a beautiful sight in our nation's capital. The White House turns pink for Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
All right, and this in Oahu's first Chick-fil-A is opening this Thursday at Ala Moana Center. It's located in the mall's Makai Market Food Court. In honor of the opening, the company donated $25,000 to the Hawaii Food Bank, and the new location is recognizing 100 local heroes by providing them with free meals for a year. Time for some good news. Famous masterpieces belonging to the late Microsoft billionaire Paul Allen. They're going to be auctioned off in a New York auction next month. Ian Lee has more.
The art world is abuzz. Rarely does a billionaire's bounty go up for sale.
Well, this will be a historic moment for the art world.
150 pieces from Microsoft co-founder Paul Allen's estate will be put under the hammer.
He bought with an extremely careful eye. He was a man who really understood the artworks and their individual significance.
It's being described as the sale of the century, featuring artwork spanning 500 years.
It's by value the greatest auction ever put on in terms of the range and quality of the masterpiece. It's the greatest ever put on.
And they won't go cheap. Some pieces, like this Cezanne landscape, are expected to fetch over $100 million.
It's going to be a sale which we assume will make well in excess of $1 billion.
Another capturing attention is this Botticelli.
It's the most fascinating because it's the only painting.
Thanks for watching. This is Now.